What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this LawnBoy mower, and the problem is we need to get it ready for another mowing season, but I'm also not sure if it even starts. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this mower. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. This LawnBoy mower has seen better days, but it's also been running for a very long time. One of the first things you'll notice when moving it around is it's difficult to push. More than likely, these wheels have never been serviced, so that's something we're going to have to address. More importantly, it looks like the deck is turning into Swiss cheese. It's unfortunate, but looks like it's beginning to rust out, and I'm not going to worry about it till we get this mower working like it's supposed to. Now, one of the best things to do at the end of, or even at the beginning of the mowing season, is to do a full tune-up. That usually means a new air filter, a spark plug, an oil change, and you might want to consider sharpening the blade. Now, the wheels don't need to be serviced every year, but it's really not that difficult to do, and it makes pushing a mower that much easier on you or the engine if you have a self-propelled mower. The worst wheels are the drive wheels in the rear. The gears seem to be making noise, and sometimes they lock up when you pull the mower backwards. If we tilt the mower back and look at the blade, we can see that it's fairly new because there's very little wear on it, but I'm sure it could still benefit from a sharpening. The worst part is that all the grass is stuck on the underside of the deck. We'll have to address this issue later on when we take a closer look. Now, I want to do a test run, and before that, we need to check to make sure there's some gas in the tank and that the engine has oil in it. Now, there's not that much gas in the tank, but by the smell, it should still work in starting this engine. There's also plenty of oil in it, but it definitely needs to be changed. Unfortunately, it didn't start, so I took out the spark plug to see if it was fouled with gas, carbon, or oil, and it looked like it had all three on there. I decided to go ahead and replace the spark plug to see if that would help to get it to start. I also didn't show it, but I did use my spark checker to make sure the ignition system was working, and it was. So unfortunately, it still didn't start, and that means we need to go through the carburetor, but I want to take this opportunity to drain out the oil so we can change it. The main reason why I want to drain out the oil is that I want to tip the mower on its side, and I don't want to spill any of it on the ground. It also makes removing the blade a lot easier, and at the same time, I want to take a closer look at that rusty deck. I'm not sure if you saw it, but the oil changed from a dark brown color to a lighter brown color, so it definitely needed to be changed. So the deck isn't packed with grass, but it is coated in it. This usually happens when you cut wet grass in the morning or after it rains. This makes it full of moisture, and after being in contact with the deck for a long period of time, it starts to rust out. There's no saving this deck, and I would imagine that some of the rust is probably keeping it together, so I'm not going to clean it, otherwise more holes might show up. After removing the blade and inspecting it, it looks to have been replaced a few seasons ago, and all it needs is a new edge put back on it. I don't like grinding too much material away on the blade when I sharpen them because I don't want to worry about having to rebalance them, and also because the blade acts as a counterweight for the engine. The blades are not that expensive, so I usually replace mine every few years. Now, while the mower is on its side, I want to service these wheels. These are often overlooked, and I completely understand why. These wheels are designed to wear out in a certain amount of time, so you either have to replace the wheels or, more importantly, the entire mower. But if you remove the wheels once in a while and clean the bolt and lubricate it with some lithium grease, they will last a lot longer and make it a lot easier to push through the grass. Now, the drive wheels on this mower are a bit different. If you turn the wheels forward, it's supposed to make a clicking noise, but it's not. That means we need to remove the wheel and clean and lubricate the ratcheting part of the drive gear. We can also remove the bolt in the wheel, clean and lubricate it, but as you can see, there's enough buildup on it that it's kind of tough to remove. If you want to try and clean the rust off the bolt, you can, but I'm only going to spray it with brake clean and wipe the loose debris off of it, then I'll spray some lithium grease on it. Now, if you try and turn the drive gear, you can hear squeaking and grinding noises, and it's not supposed to be like that. I'm not going to completely remove the gear, but I do need to get this clip out of the way and the keyed washer under it. After that, I want to spray some brake cleaner in the opening in the gear. Now, this one is pretty clean, so there's not a lot of debris coming out of it. Remember to let the cleaner dry first, then we can spray some grease in the openings of the gear. The reason we don't want to remove the gear is that we don't want to risk losing the key and the spring that's underneath it, so we can still lubricate it with it in place. Then replace the washer and the clip, and make sure you can hear clicking noises when you turn the gear. After that, replace the wheels and do the same job on the other set of wheels. Now that the mower is back on the ground, I want to add oil to the engine before I forget. I really don't care about knowing the exact oil capacity on the engine, as I always use the dipstick to help get it to the right level. Unfortunately, this means I end up adding oil to the engine several times till it's full versus just pouring a set amount in. Just remember, never pour a whole quart of oil into the engine, as the engine could require as little as half of a quart. Now, I really should have done this earlier, but I want to do a compression test just to make sure this engine is going to be healthy enough to cut the grass and use the self-propel. If the engine is worn out, then the self-propel could put a huge strain on the engine and cause it to bog down when cutting tall grass. So the reading is about 135 psi, which is pretty good. That means this engine will have plenty of power for mowing and the drive system. If the number was below 100 psi, I would be very worried about having enough power to do both. Now, before I remove the carburetor bowl, I still want to drain any remaining gas out of the tank. Now, there wasn't much in the tank to begin with, but I still don't want to make a huge mess. Now, I wasn't planning on removing the entire carburetor unless I saw something terrible in the bowl. Now, the most likely problem is that the bowl nut, which is also a fuel jet, is clogged and needs to be cleared. The gas in the bowl needs to enter the two holes in the side of the brass jet and through a tiny hole in the middle, and this tiny hole is the one most likely to get clogged. Use a small diameter wire to pass through the two larger holes and then through the middle hole. On this particular jet, there's also a small hole near the top of the threads that needs to be cleared as well. After that, we can then reinstall the bowl in the jet. It's very important that the bowl is clocked the same way it was taken off. Otherwise, the float won't move enough to allow enough gas to enter the bowl and the engine will not start. Another reason why this engine wouldn't start is that the kill switch wire on the right side of the engine is still being grounded. This wire would also ground the ignition coil and not allow the ignition system to work. To test this, disconnect the green wire at the connector and then try starting the engine again. If it starts, then you know that your kill switch is bad or it needs to be adjusted so it's not grounded when the brake lever on the handle is pulled back. So it started with no problems and it's running very well, and after an oil change, new spark plug, air filter, and a sharpened blade, it's now ready for another mowing season. So my question is, would you still have tried cleaning all that grass from underneath the deck? If I had done it, I would have used my power washer, and I'm afraid that I would have compromised the deck even more. I would just keep taping up all those holes until the deck was gone, and then I would put the mower on the curb. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions, and I hope to see you in the next video.